Welcome to Blue Collar Mystics, the under-the-hood approach to the depths of human consciousness. So many mysteries, so little time, so many big words. That's why we aim to take the mystical and make it practical, usable in your everyday life. And we want to hear from you. We want to hear your story. What happened when you started asking yourself the real questions? Like, who am I? What is this? Is it a hologram? Is this some kind of weird cosmic joke? Hey, these are the questions that we are trying to get to the bottom of as we explore the final rabbit hole together here as Blue Collar Mystics. What's up, everybody? How's it going? We are live here on YouTube. We're live on Rockfin. Got a couple on Rockfin. Hey, what's up, everybody? We're also live in the Facebook group. Hope everybody's doing well. This is the Blue Collar Mystics Transurfing Safari edition with the great Abby Johnson. Welcome, Abby.
Well, thank you for calling me great.
Yeah, well, you are great.
I am.
Yeah.
Who are you? You're great too.
Thank you very much. Everybody in the chat, you're great. Of course, there's nobody in there, but you would be great. But that's all right.
You would be great.
We'll get some people hopping on and hanging out. We have been talking about the Reality Transurfing book, which I have a copy of right here. Reality Transurfing. It's the thick one. I made a summary of it, if that's something that might be helpful to you. My friend Isaac today told me that he just finished it and he had some good feedback for me. Most all very positive. He said that I could expound on the turning the key exercise. That was his only critique. So I'll make a video about it. And
because turning the key is the cool thing. Like that. It is cool.
It is very cool.
It's very awesome.
I think it'd be something that will help to have a visual too as well. So that's available. Please check that out. I just got back from going on tour and doing some comedy. It was really fun. So we took last week off, but I'm glad that we're still doing these live. I think it's more fun.
It is.
Yeah. So we were not around last week. So we are here this week, once again, picking it back up. And we're doing chapter 13, which is coordination, which is really, I say this like every week. I'm like, this is the most important idea in the book. I'm like, you got it. This is a can't miss episode, but it's just true in this case. And the truth of it with all the transurfing stuff, you hear people talking about it. They don't really go this far usually. You will get to chapter 8, 9, 10, and then that's about it. You get to goals and doors, and then people are like, all right, I can't really teach you this other shit. Because this is the technical part of the book, right? Like, so the theory part is really those first 10 chapters. And then now we start to really get into the practical use of the book. And I like the theory stuff a lot. I think it's fascinating, but I think it's also incredibly important to talk about the things that you can actually put into practice, how this actually does work and how you can implement it into your life.
Yeah, because that's why we're doing it, right? Because we want to be able to use it.
Exactly. Yes, you want to be able to use it. Very well said. Yes. And so this is really a big chapter when it comes down to that. He's talking a lot about how to get what we want, how to get our goals to happen, and how most of us go about that the wrong way. A lot of us try to feign confidence, put a front on, pretend to be capable, fake it till we make it, so to speak. Or we're just insecure. And really, those two things are more or less the
same
same.
thing.
The same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
It's a spectrum, and it's all false. Well, I guess it's not false because it's genuinely how you see things, but really, I mean, how much importance is put on being self-confident and all that? Self-confidence, you hear about it all the time in all the psychology books. If you, I mean, it's everywhere. It's like, it's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be confident, right?
Yeah. But I don't know how you're supposed to earn that confidence, from yourself. Right. And so he does talk, especially at the end of the chapter, a little bit about self-worth and how that's really what we're all more or less looking for, is that self-worth and being allowing ourselves to have, really being able to accept things into our lives. That's really the skill to benefit, to cultivate your experience more so than money or anything else. And it's interesting how he talks about it in the first part of the chapter. He is really just differentiating between inner intention, and he's talking about inner intention and confidence versus outer intention being really this magical coordinated state, right? Where it's like we going through the chapter and really starting to more and more understand. Are you taking photos?
I'm gonna put it on Instagram.
Okay. All right. And
I should take a picture.
understand, the ideas of outer intention a little bit better. And then the idea of inner intention really being from this, like, maybe machismo confident place, or fake confident place, trying to push the world around. Whereas outer intention is really about allowing those things to unfold. And so a lot of the obstacles that we're putting in our own way are there and due to importance. So he talks a little bit about reducing importance, and he talks about desire and cultivating intention in this chapter. Because I think it's easy to get it twisted. People like, oh no, desire is bad. If I desire something, that's bad. I'll block myself from having it. But it's like desire is the beginning point to begin to shape intention. So it's not a bad thing to have desire. It's a bad thing to have desire and not do anything with it. But it's okay to have desire. That's the beginning. That's the beginning of intention, he says.
I think it's also can be confused because like the very beginning of this chapter is prefaced with this quote, and it says, "I do not want or hope, I intend." And so that seems like wanting is bad, but it's wanting, the desire to have something is the beginning of intention, because why else would you intend it if you didn't want it, right? I guess you can do things intentionally from a negative standpoint, but people don't realize that, like, a pessimist is always creating what they desire, which is more negativity. But
Absolutely. Yeah. And he talks about that a little bit later in the chapter too, the negativist, yeah, absolutely. Just creating, making themselves right and being
yeah,
proud of it, through a negative lens. Yeah, it's
so it still starts with desire. It's the desire to be right, so desire that the world is shit, even though they don't think they want that, but secretly they kind of do.
well, yeah. I mean, I really think that's our primary need, is to be right. Like if you're
Yeah.
gonna like boil it all down, you know what I mean? It's like if I eat like the windowsill, you know what I mean, for sustenance, I don't survive. So for me, it's like understanding reality. That's first and foremost. You got to be right, and so we're all sort of proving ourselves right constantly And we covered that. That's kind of the premise of the book. But starting to differentiate between these sort of elements, like the idea of confidence or true confidence or knowledge and faith, and how intention works, because the idea of coordination is really, it's about coordinating your heart and mind. And your heart, as we've spoken about, has its own kinky interests about the world. Your mind has been indoctrinated and culturally sort of massaged into a certain worldview, the way that your language is, all your programming, all that kind of stuff, which is fascinating stuff to me. But those two elements are working with each other and often against each other. So, I mean, just me realizing, the first time I realized, oh my God, I can feel good about something and it makes logical sense. Like, I didn't think that was a possibility. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't realize you could do that. I was like, oh my God, I can like be aligned with something. But that's the whole idea, is that we're coordinating first and foremost within our own psyche, because the biggest issues are coming up between our interference between the heart and mind, he says. So really, that's the first and most important aspect of this chapter, is the coordination of heart and mind, first and foremost. And he's going on to talk about coordinating other things too, talking about importance next, when he's talking about this stuff.
But back to the whole self-confidence versus, inferiority complexes and all of that. That is a matter of importance always. Like, if I feel very confident about this, I mean, you're actually leaving that up to the sway of pendulums. You're not really, you don't know. You don't feel worthy necessarily. You're just saying like, I think I can do okay. And then usually, you put importance on it. So it doesn't turn out the way that you want. The same way with feeling inferior. So really the trick is to know your self-worth and to not allow others to change that view of yourself. You know your strengths, you know your weaknesses. Your weaknesses aren't always a bad thing either, but you know your value. And if you don't know your value, then you need to start like thinking about that, not enough like self-confident sort of way, not about building your confidence, just knowing your worth. You have value. Every person to here does.
100%. Yeah. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind too, because we tie our self-worth a lot of times to goals, attaining goals, having things, but you're not worthy because of what you do, like that has literally zero to do with it. Like, your heart is perfect just by virtue of being what it is, So I made a video really, I think this week when I was in Florida, and it was, I don't know, there was some weird lighting stuff with the whole thing, but it was the meaning of the video, I think, was good. And that's really, it's not about what you've done, it's about who you are, and that is really what should matter most when you consider your self-worth, when you think about why you are worthy, why you do deserve, or you have earned probably whatever is coming, or whatever it is that you want. It's not because you did certain things that you are deserving. It's just because you are who you are that you deserve it.
Yeah. I take that back to like what I learned in this NLP course is that, and I quote it all the time because it's really a good positive outlook without being super positive, like false positivity. It's just that there is no failure, only feedback. So, your failures shouldn't contribute to feeling less worthy. Is feedback for you. Okay, X didn't work. This didn't work out for me. That's not for me. Those are good things.
Yeah. And mitigating guilt or contempt or a shame or any of that, type of emotions. It's like the biggest thing in this chapter when he's talking about overcoming importance and turning that desire into intention is just action. It's action, 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 action. That will dissipate the tension and the importance, the excess potential of you thinking and fantasizing or like over a certain thing. Just take action. It doesn't even have to be
like, how do you get rid of anxiety? Anxiety is about fear, right? It's just fear of the future. So if you're anxious, just act, do something about it.
Yeah. It's pretty,
And
it's
it's with
simple.
all of it,
Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be
Yeah.
a big action. It just needs to be some movement in some direction, that will dissipate that
Yeah.
excess potential, that desire,
Don't react. Just act.
Yeah. Be proactive. Don't be reactive. But yeah, I mean, he says that confidence
Yeah.
is just a temporary excess potential. That's all confidence is. So it ultimately swings back like a pendulum if you're confident. You want to have knowledge, though. You want to have knowledge in the system. You want to understand that if you coordinate things properly, if you can align your heart and mind, and if you can learn how to notice and read signs and see the flow of alternatives, then you can use outer intention and notice when things and opportunities open up for you, and be just be aware and be able to take advantage of opportunity when it presents itself to you, whereas otherwise you might not, without the system and without the ability to coordinate. So we're taking a lot of these elements and sort of putting them together with this idea of coordination, and that's really what coordination is. It's definitely a way to think about the game itself without this ego trip where you're like, I did this thing. It's like, no, you're just coordinating. You're just balancing the dishes, you're just reading this sign and going over here, and taking this next step. You're just paddling this way a little bit, it's not so.
I really like how he describes like insecurity and all of that as a labyrinth. And it's like it's just a labyrinth you're stuck in, and you can't fight your way out of it. That's the big thing, is that fighting your way out of it is like, it's just inviting balancing forces because you're putting a lot of importance on it. So he says that the way to get yourself out of it is just to stop struggling, and then the walls crumble. And the labyrinth got me, though, because this is how I know he's a dream hacker. Because dream hackers talk about labyrinths too in dream space. So I think that is pretty fascinating. So
Yeah.
that's the trick to the labyrinths of the dream space too. The places that you go and you can never find the way out.
Stop looking
In a dream. Yeah. The walls will crumble.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, that's I love how you love that connection. I love that connection too. I'm sure he probably was part of this group of dream hackers, and
there's one whose name sounds very much like Vadim Zeland. I forget what it is exactly, but it's very similar, so I know it.
She knows it. Yeah,
I'm a fangirl.
It's yeah, well, fair enough. Me too.
Yeah.
No, it's awesome that it's that simple too. I love the way he describes it as a labyrinth, because it's like the more that you look and look and look and try to find a way out, and you try and improve your self-worth, it's like you can't really do that. You can by accomplishing things, and you can increase your faith in the system and your confidence in the in coordination. He's talking a little bit about that later on as well, and really what faith is. So understanding these elements that we've been talking about over all these episodes and being able to kind of put them together with this. It's really about seeing the whole process, watching it unfold, seeing your reality shift or your goal accomplished, or however you want to think of it, that reality, manifested or brought into this material space, and the elements that are being used in order to make that happen. You start to build a relationship to the model, to the system. You start to see the results, and you start to not just believe in something. You're not just putting faith in something, you actually know it. And then you start to see it actually happen for you. And so now at that point, faith is no longer required. He's talking about how Jesus, when he walked across water, it would have been like concrete. It would have just been effortless. It wouldn't have felt like he was doing anything at all. It would have felt ordinary, not even like a big deal. And that's kind of what we're talking about, going from this process of desire to actuality. Because in desire, you can't believe, it's like such a big deal. You can't believe it yet. You have this desire for it, and it's overwhelming, but it's exciting. It's tantalizing. And then you get into the point where you allow yourself to have that through taking enough action. And then you get a sense of delight
too.
Yeah, creating slides, absolutely. And then you feel that sense of delight from knowing that it's possible, from believing it, And then ultimately ordinariness sets in, and the thing becomes just normal, just natural.
It's your new level.
Yeah.
You leveled up.
You elevated your neutral. Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I wrote that in here. Your balance point went up.
What I thought was interesting is he talks in here about, he does get quite biblical in this chapter, because he goes straight into the 10 Commandments, and he says, the first, basically all 10 Commandments could be boiled down to two. The first two, really. So the first one is, thou shalt have no other God before me. And he said, because people went and were making their own gods, he said they're worshiping pendulums. And it's like, you don't think about it as worship, but when you're a fanatic, you're a fan of something, or all these religions branch off into different sects and stuff, they create their own version of God. They're creating their own gods, and that is a pendulum. So I was like, oh wow, that's interesting way to take it. And then the second commandment, why is that eluding me right now?
It's love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Is that the second commandment? No, because Jesus said that's the second commandment. We're so he goes into what Jesus says though about it all, because basically, you shouldn't create any graven images, or so you shouldn't create your own little gods and stuff. And again, that's talking about pendulums, something that you worship, something that you put all your energy into. And so he said that they can all be boiled down to pretty much pendulum worship, creating pendulums that are, greater than God, and your oneness with God. You forget that you are God. And so Jesus said that the two greater commandments are to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And that's just remembering who God actually is, not every other version of God, not the pendulums, right? And then you should love your neighbor as yourself. So those are the two things that you need to focus on. And that's where this whole material I was able to accept it as a Christian, because he was able to reconcile my faith in God and religion at the time to really all his concepts.
Yeah, it doesn't step on any toes as far as that goes. It really just is outlining the process that we see happen. It's a very natural process, and it's cool to see how these elements of the former chapters weave together in this. But I've been thinking a lot about love, specifically unconditional love too, just in regards to, I don't know, all this. I mean,
he defines it better than anyone, I think. You know, like I've never heard it like what love is defined better than by Vadim Zealand. I will say that.
it's a perfect sacrifice of the self. It just doesn't even consider itself. It's just completely sacrificial of that, which is, I mean, that show me a better example in the Jesus story. You know, what is more sacrificial? But I don't know. Sometimes I'm thinking maybe if he could had it all to do over again, he might be like, maybe this isn't such a good idea. You know, like, look at us now. No, but
nah, he'd do it over again.
I think he would do it
he was
over and over and over again. And I think that's the whole point. Is it's not even just a one-time deal, right? It's a consistent giving. That's what unconditional love really is. Yeah, I've been watching this one guy's channel, and he put out one. It was called Love Like the Sun. And he's just talking about like the sun never gets any real praise. We can't really even directly connect to it or anything, but it's just there, giving us life every single day, humbly, gratefully, doesn't ask for anything.
Nice, Santan.
Just, yeah, exactly. It just gives. It never asks. You know.
You can also burn your ass, though. Don't forget that.
Yeah, it's true. But he gives some tips for reducing importance too. Obviously, importance is coming from, it can come from a lot of places, but those are excess potentials. Really, it's emotional. A lot of times it's guilt or inadequacy or confidence. Like anything that's really generated that's outside of stasis, outside of zero. And those have to be quelled. But one of the things that he talks about in this chapter too is, and he reminds us to sometimes it's okay to make a mistake and blow off some steam, and to have excess potential, to allow yourself. He's, talking a little bit about how we
let yourself be provoked.
We want to try to control everything. We want to even try to control the fact that we're controlling importance. That's even its own trap. So
because then you make that important. You gotta think of it on that level. If you're sitting there trying to control importance so harshly, you're making it important. So you're by definition just fucking yourself.
Exactly. And it's like, you got to think about, just from a practical place, your locus of control anyway. Right. And later on, he's going to talk a lot about like how our mind wants to try and wrap its head around how these things are going to happen. It just gives it security. It's like, you can't wrap your head around all these elements, all these variables. We know that well. We've talked about that extensively, and that's really what it's about. Is just focus on what you can do. There are infinite variables. Take any action toward your goal, one step to the letterbox, as he says. So that's really what it's about. It doesn't matter how. And I'd say another thing too, that I just want to remind people that and this is something that he talks about in this book, in this chapter, particularly about understanding coordination and implementing these ideas, is that it's in that process of like desire, how it ultimately becomes intention. Like the skills and abilities eventually culminate, and we can use them, but it is a learning process, and it's not always something that you just get right the first time off the bat. And you're like, why can't I just magically do this? It's like, well, you're working with several different variables all at the same time, and you got to give yourself some space, some time to play and to be a little bit of a scientist and to put this stuff into action. And then your mind, once you can see, actually the example that he uses is riding a bicycle without training wheels. or they call them stabilizers, I guess, in the UK or whatever, however it was translated. But it's like the first time you ride without training wheels, you know you're going to fall, dude. You just are. You're going to fall. And it's like, that's okay. Like eventually the bike will stay up, and your mind doesn't know how the bike stays up. It doesn't have like a conscious example or understanding of why you can balance the bike. It just sees that the bike can be balanced. Yeah. And now you don't believe, you don't have faith, right? At that point. So that definitely beats the fuck out of confidence, right? Like confidence is just a generated bravado. It's just an attitude for a minute, and it's fun. It's a fun thing to play. It's very funny. Confidence is very funny. Cockiness, arrogance, very funny. But it's really not enough. It's not enough to fill up a sail of intention, as he says, right? And insecurity is obviously not going to help you. So you try and put that bravado idea on. You can take all your insecurities and just project them into confidence, but that's not enough to actually get the wind of outer intention on your side. You need knowledge in the process. You need to have not faith, not belief, but to know that it works. And that only happens through trial and error and patience and time.
Look at the Wright brothers. They made a flying contraption that, what the hell? Like, we have like however many ton metal contraptions flying through the air all the time now.
They said that iron would never float, and now it flies.
And what the heck? Yeah, exactly.
So, then it becomes commonplace. It's like, that's the other example. He's like, whenever you go in and if he's like, if I wanted to tell you how to fly in a plane, what would you do? Well, you just get on the plane, you sit down, you buckle your seatbelt, you wait for the lady to come and bring you a Diet Coke, and then you watch a movie, and then you get to the place that you were going. That's all you have to do to ride in a plane. You don't need to know how to fly it,
Not at all.
Yeah. And that's so much better than faith. And that's what faith, and I think that's what faith is. So someone says in the chat, I love me some faith though. Me too. I love faith too. I think like real faith is more knowledge than it is belief. In fact, it probably is truly is knowledge. Just like we're talking semantics now at this point, what is faith versus belief versus knowledge. But, what I'm saying is like ultimate knowledge in the process. You don't need any confidence. You don't need to conjure up any extra energy for anything. You just know that it's going to be that way, and it's a lot of the magical. This is the magical chapter. This is really about,
I think faith is, I believe it can happen. And the difference is that we don't want to be at that place. We want to be at the place where I know it can happen.
It's already happened.
So that's the difference between like faith and knowing. And it's not that faith is a bad thing. It's just that faith does, it doesn't seem like it. It's supposed to be like a very good thing, but faith isn't always knowing that you'll get what you want. It's believing that you can. Right?
I think so. Again, I think at this point, we could talk about definitions, and probably everybody has different definitions of kind of
what faith means to them.
What it means. Yeah. Cause coming up in the church and stuff, I definitely have my own conceptions of it. But I know that what he's talking about in this chapter is really more along the lines of knowledge. It's truly trusting the process. It's saying, this is a natural law. If I do this, then this will be the result of my doing this. And that's really what it's about. That knowledge itself, once it's embedded, then the process happens so much faster. It's like mastering anything, and certainly anything that looks easy is fucking so hard. You know what I mean? Like everything is so hard, and it's like the easier it looks, the harder it was to figure out how to do it. But once we have that awareness, that knowledge, that process is there, that's why we can walk out into the world and confidently say that our world takes care of us. We understand that process when we know through direct knowledge, experience,
Right.
as opposed to being like, well, theoretically, based on what I read in this book, or so and so said, so I should believe it. You're trying to trick your mind into believing something, and that just doesn't work. Your mind will believe it if it directly experiences it, though.
Yeah, faith without application is not the same as knowledge, I would say.
Yeah, it's
You
easier
gotta
said than
have you
done.
have to have the action. You have to move.
It's true.
And okay, so one thing I really liked that he talks about in this chapter is that, the idea of branching lifelines, because that's what we're talking about. This whole reality transurfing, we're talking about, surfing the different waves and finding the right lifelines, right? But he says that, it fractals all the time. Life fractals all the time. Every time you make a decision, there's two choices to be made, right? And or sometimes more than that, but we'll just go with two. But there's always a positive and a negative. And what determines which one you're going to be on is your attitude toward it. It's like if you feel like it's a negative choice, then it's going to put you on a negative life path, and vice versa. And even if you choose the wrong thing and it's negative, but you can find the positive in it, like we were talking about the silver threads, you're still on a positive life track.
And you have time too. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's another thing too, where it's like, it's so easy for us to get down on ourselves. It was like something happens and we react to it. It's like your initial reaction, you're not stuck with that. You know what I mean? At any point, you can be like, oh, well, I greatly overreacted. I'm actually going to celebrate this now because I know this actually brings me closer to my goal. I don't know how. And of course you won't. But he talks about that. He talks about celebrating the negative situations and circumstances or the unexpected things. Like, celebrate those too. Celebrate it when things didn't go the way that you wanted them to work out, just because that's also bringing you closer to your goal. Sometimes it's bringing you closer to your goal. Like, well, you better dig in and fix this. This is a problem, but like you said, there's no failure, only feedback.
You said you wanted this. Now you better do it. Like, yeah,
You said you wanted
there's
it.
no
I've set
failure,
you
only
on the
feedback. And
path to do it. You're not just
I've
going to
had that happen
nail
to me
it.
recently.
Yeah, you're not just
Yeah,
going to nail it the first fucking time, bro. I'm sorry. Nobody
dude,
does that. Sorry.
I had started, making slides for what I wanted for my future. And, I felt like, oh, but I need to, wait until I'm ready. I need to wait because I'm not quite there yet. And it was like, reality was like, nah, you wanted this. So we're forcing you to do it because this is what you chose. And it's still what I choose, but it was like forcing me into uncomfortable situations because I did choose it. So even though I had some really crappy things happen, it ultimately was for my good, and I knew it. I knew it as it was happening. Like, I saw what it was doing. I saw, like, how I had created it, but I created it because I was trying to put off what I wanted, what I intended, what I made my goal slides for. And, reality is like, no, you said you wanted it on the easiest track. So we're doing it like this. Like, we gave you the opportunity to do it yourself, and now we're gonna force it. So
You throw your hat over the fence and make
can't
the
say I'm
signal.
sorry.
Make the signal happen, and then all of a sudden, the things start to go into motion, and then you can't undo that process once you've started it. So
It's
you just got to
scary.
go with it. It is very
Yeah.
scary. Yeah. Tell me about it.
Like, oh shit. Like, okay, but this is what I want. I don't feel like I was ready yet. But yeah,
No, I mean
doesn't matter. It's
that's
gotta
it.
the chain of events have to unfold the way that they're supposed to unfold. In order for me to get it the way I want it, then I have to deal with it.
Yes, and in doing so, you are allowing yourself to have growth. Is always going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but he talks about how allowing yourself to have is the most important element, really, for growth. It's like you have to be able to allow yourself to have. You could money or resources or other things really aren't what is going to help you the most on the path. It's really allowing yourself to have and opening up to that, however you can, literally in any possible way.
Yeah, because it kind of goes on to the whole, there's some people that are able to go on holiday whenever they want, and then there's
Exactly.
other people who like have to save all their money and do it once a year.
And then they
And
go on vacation and the weather's bad and the ski lift breaks and they don't even get those 5 days.
yeah, and then the whole time they're worried about the money that they're spending, even though they budgeted it for the whole time. But and that's why they allow themselves to have in a sense, but not really. Like they were probably the whole time more worried about the money and not the experience. Because if they allowed themselves to have a good experience, it probably would have turned out perfectly and the money wouldn't have ever been an issue.
Yeah, it's true. Oh man, it's so funny. Yeah, I love this. I mean, and it's true. It is scary to grow. It not just can be. It's uncomfortable. It's scary. But what's scarier? Like
Staying the same forever,
probably.
stagnating. I think the idea of that's where I was, is that the idea of being stagnant seems like such a waste of this life. When we have so many possibilities and so many things that we can do, like why are we settling? And that's really just where I am. And as far as growth goes, it's in every aspect, like growing my muscles. You think that it's not scary sometimes for me to like look at myself like, oh my gosh, like I'm looking crazy, but I like it, but then I don't like it, because it's just like seeing the changes is scary a little bit.
It really is. Well, I've had to see myself change. So I heard this. I've been listening to this one psychologist talk a lot. And one of the things that he says is that whenever we accomplish a goal, what's great about it is that the goal requires us to become something different in order to attain that goal. You can't we in our state, whatever it was that we were when we made the goal, we were not able, whether it's physically, mentally, some other thing, to be able to accomplish that goal. We had to actually change and transform into something else in order to be able to accomplish that goal. And that goes right with the hero's journey. And you see
Yeah.
it all the time in the movies.
Well, you never get the same results, or you never get a new result by doing the same thing. Like, if you do the same things over and over again, you're never going to get the new result. So you have to become somebody else
Yeah, you do. And what is that called?
and allow yourself to have it.
Yeah, but we're stalking.
LARPing,
Stalking, yeah.
stalking,
Back to the
or stalking.
Castaneda stuff. Well, no, it's true. I mean, think about it. So
We
think
stalk
about
ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, and think about your ideal self, whatever it is that you want to accomplish in this incarnation. He goes on at the end of the book to say that there are different goals. You may not have the same goal forever. You might have a goal, and then that goal you accomplish that, and then you change and go to a different goal. But what is that person like that is identified with that goal that you currently hold? What does that person do? What are the characteristics of that person, right? Like, not to cause identity crisis, you are who you are at your heart, but it's like the more that you can LARP, and bring those elements and those personality traits to life that are correspondent to that goal, to coordinate yourself with it, the more like, I would say, natural and more of a flow that you're going to have
The
toward
transitions.
toward
Yeah.
going toward that goal and changing into that person, because the person that's accomplishing that goal and the goal that's being accomplished, those two things have to be you have to be that person in order to do it. You couldn't sit on the couch and eat Doritos and not go to the gym and compete in a bodybuilding competition. You can't do that. You have to be the person that you've created
I
that
mean, you
goal.
can. You're going to embarrass yourself, though, because you're going to be the one with the jiggly ass.
Right. And maybe a
I
lot of
just went to a bodybuilding competition on Saturday, and I saw a lot of jiggly asses, and I was like, I messaged my coach and I said, "Do not ever let me on stage if my ass is jiggling."
Fair enough.
Ugh, it's bad. It gave me a complex a little bit. I was like, "Does my ass jiggle?" So bad. There's a lot. Okay, I totally derailed the conversation.
That's okay.
But
so yeah,
okay.
so we were just talking about jiggly asses, and that gets me off track too. I would not have been disappointed. I would have been like, "Oh, jiggly
My
asses!
mind
Oh,
went
you
there.
don't say." Oh, yeah. Well,
Like, this is a bodybuilding show. I realize that women just generally have jiggly asses, and that's okay, but not at a bodybuilding show.
well, I mean, were there snacks? Was there like a crafty table with some
Like some
concession
protein bars and
stands,
stuff.
protein
Yeah.
bar? I mean, that's cool. I mean, that makes it, a little more casual.
Oh, yeah.
It's always good to have a snack. They yeah, this chapter really, he talks a lot about the clay golem. He talks about the pendulum and how the pendulum works us too. And he gives some more insight into that, like how the pendulum sort of strings are situated, where it'll make you kind of give you the idea that you're free, but if you go too far, you'll feel the string. It's like the idea of like, oh, I'm just going to do this one last time. That you think that's your idea if you're like have an addiction to something, or if you are going to, let's say, I don't know, do whippets. You're like, this is the last time or whatever. That's not your idea. That's the pendulum's idea imposing it on you or something, right? I don't know why I chose whippets.
I don't know. I like whippets. I'm gonna go ahead and derail
Everybody
the or take a. Oh my gosh!
Are you gonna take a
Wawa's,
whippet?
right?
Take a
So fun.
whippet on the stream, dude.
That'd be fun.
Some ready whip in the pantry. Go ahead.
So going back to the acting as if, though, that is a really good practice, and it's a short meditation, really, and not only meditation. So yeah, when you're becoming the new person, the person that has this job, the person that does this thing, not only should you visualize it for sure. What do they look like? What do they feel like? What do they smell like? Do all your senses, add it all in there. What do they talk like? What words do they use? What lingo do they use? But then go take it a step further. Like, if you want to become it, then dress the part. Like, you don't have to do it all the time, but why shouldn't you do it sometimes? You become it. Like, that is the art of stalking in a nutshell. It's not only visualizing all the little elements of what I become, but it's also taking the action, right? So that would be like put a costume. If this version of me wears a suit to work, then I better wear a suit. Like, let's do it. Like, what does it feel like to walk in a suit? What does it feel like to wear the dress shoes? Not the same as the guy who wears his sweats all the time. This is a whole different person. This is what this person would be like. So then you're vibrating at that frequency, you're vibrating at that energy of that lifeline, and you're putting yourself way closer by doing those things.
Yeah. We can do anything, but we do have to choose, right? Like to choose means to decide. It means to cut away in the Latin. I can't say it, but anyway, it means to cut. The root of the word to decide. So really, it's
Cut
about
the fat.
cut everything out that is irrelevant to your goal, what you're trying to do, and focus on the things that are relevant, and focus on and do those things, because we can't do everything in one life. So you kind of have to make some choices, and that's fine. That's part of the fun, right? Like you got to choose, and you choose what feels best and what your heart wants, what your heart came in here for. But there really are a lot of options, and the goals will change. You'll have a goal for a while, you'll accomplish that, and then you'll get another goal and you'll accomplish that, and it will feel ordinary and mundane to you. And it's kind of sad in a way, because you're like, you get all excited because you're like, the thing, I'm going to do the thing. And then you get it and you're like, okay, well, now it just feels like my refrigerator that was over there, just the same.
Now what? What's the new thing?
Now what? Exactly. So
But I want that life. That's the life I want. I want the life where I always have a now what. Like okay, we accomplished. What's the next thing? Let's
welcome to it. You're already there.
because otherwise you're just stagnant. Yeah. You
It's
may as well
true.
just have dementia and Alzheimer's because you're doing the same shit over and over and over again.
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely better.
Help those neural
And you
pathways.
are elevating your balance point. You're elevating neutral, and it's like the more that you can grow and develop, the more that you can share what you've accumulated in the form of lessons, in the form of material resources, whatever, with other people, and add to their lives. Do more for yourself and for them. It's like I don't know. I've always had some struggles with the idea of money. I think that's embedded into us from a very young age, especially in the Christian church. But when you think about it, and I challenge people to think about this, it's like if you had resources, do you trust your judgment with them better than BlackRock's or what? You know what I mean? Like it's a no-brainer, like I don't know. It's not all about having stuff either. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not a materialist by any stretch of the imagination or like
It's not stuff, it's the
it's not
experiences, I
it's not
think.
about stuff, but it is, yes, and it's more about the experience. That's the other thing too, is like you can accumulate a ton of money and just be miserable every single day. Like, and that's how a lot of people live who do have a lot of money. So thinking about that too, how do you want to spend your time? What do you want to be doing? What is important to you? And plan accordingly, create a strategy that is going to allow for that. And I think that's part of it too. When we get into some of these things, now we create a different reality for ourselves, and then we're like, this isn't as cool as I thought, or whatever. It's like I don't know, if I were to go back maybe 10 years ago, I was just like, God, if I could just not have to work on the tree farm, I'd do anything. I'd work from home 8 hours a day and make cold calls, anything, whatever it takes. I just want to work from home. And then you get the opportunity to work from home, and you're like, work 4 hours, and like fuck off, or whatever. You're like, it sure would be nice to just be skiing all day, or like whatever the next thing, whatever, and you're, I don't know if it's your, but you can easily get tied in to doing something that is pure at an absolute drudgery too, so I don't know. I say all that to say it's amazing to watch yourself grow and be like, wow, I was able to work from home, and I started a business, and I did this thing. That's amazing. And the fact that we want to continue to grow and to continue to find new things and new ways to help people, back to the idea of love, it's really about giving what we are to other people in that sacrificial sort of way. And I guess, through building comfort and through coordinating, that's kind of how we can begin to do it. Bit by bit.
Bit by bit. So he does talk about, we talked about a little bit like anxiety, to get rid of anxiety is to act. You just make an action. But it talks about fear. Like, how do you get rid of fear?
How do you get rid of fear, Abby?
Create a plan B.
Oh,
You don't even have to have you don't have to have 20 plan Bs or, like plan A through Z. You just have to have a plan B, and it will help you get over fear. Because all the fear is excess potential, guilt is excess potential, anxiety is excess potential. So these are all things that require natural law to step in and balance you out. But yeah, how to not desire, accept the possibility of defeat, and know it's gonna be okay. Like,
yeah.
you
Nope.
intend, like, I'm gonna have it at some point. So, but if I'm defeated, it's gonna be fine. Like,
Yeah, and it will just open up a new way to get to something that's actually even better than what I initially had
yeah,
in mind. That's the other part of it.
maybe I was thinking too small.
I mean, I can't tell you how much I've done that, where I'm like, I just want to, live in a van over here, and living in a van over here would be fine. But you know, I can just like get into that. And then I'm like, what am I doing? Like, seriously, that's what I'm going to put my energy towards? No, I want more than that. I just like think a little bit bigger. Like, but I don't know.
My family member actually sold his house and everything and bought a van, and that's what he does. He just like
I mean,
lives in different places all over the time, camps out all the time.
I
He's like
mean,
happy as hell
the past couple summers,
because it's not about things, it's about experiences.
it is.
Because I don't think things will ever really make you happy. It's kind of like the same as money. Like you get the new computer and you're happy with it for a couple days, and you're like,
Yeah,
it's fine. It's not that exciting anymore.
it's true.
And,
Yep.
like I'll never forget. My mom always quoted it. Like there was this television, this new news broadcaster, a reporter was sitting there. She interviews a beach bum, and the beach bum was like, she's like, don't you just wish you had a sofa and little comforts like that? And he goes, heck no. He's like, if I had a sofa, I'd have to be home all day, and I gotta hang out at the beach. It's like, it's about the experience, it's not about things necessarily.
Well, we
He
all
had a good
want
point
different.
there.
Yeah, I mean, we all want different things, right? And
Oh, we
so,
all want things. Things are fun.
but yeah, but no, I
Acquiring
just
things is
mean like,
fun.
but even the experience, right? Like we all want different experiences. And I think it's really more about the experience than anything else. And some people are going to be like tantalized to drive like a super fast car. Other people don't care about that, but they want to jump out of a plane or go down a river or like, go scuba diving or whatever. And so, yeah, that's another thing that you said too, is it's like your credo is not something that you like really work on. You just have it. Like it's just a natural thing. And like your taste, your personality, that those things that's you. And you have a very individual taste for things, a thirst for life, whatever those experiences are. If you can figure what those things are out, then you can begin to coordinate those things into your life. And that's when the apples fall to the sky. Like that's the kicker.
Because remember, you are a droplet of the ocean. You are God, but you are also unique. You're a unique little droplet. You're your own formation. You're shit. If you went through the whole water cycle and ended up in Alaska or something, you'd be a beautiful snowflake. That's very individual. So, yeah.
It's true. Just because I have a lot of lookalikes, it doesn't mean I'm not extraordinarily unique, even though I look extraordinarily regular. Okay. And that goes for all of us. We all have unique characteristics and traits that are us. And that's the cool thing too, to like lean into those things, find those things, what those things are. And then it becomes a lot easier to understand yourself and to give yourself the things that you really do want, whatever those are. You like dig down into that. And then you can really use this coordination idea to work through outer intention.
Yes, you can. By turning over your goal slide and working on the little slides in your transfer chain, you can make anything happen.
Yeah, and choose the
You
positive
have
branch.
you have to allow yourself to be worthy. Like find your worthiness of it. Like believe in that. Don't believe in all the self-confidence is bullshit. It's something you just have to believe in your own worth and that you're worthy to have what you ask for, what you want.
Yeah, you are worthy to have what it is that you want because you were programmed with the desire to have that. Like, why would God pray to himself? Why would you have the desire if for any other reason than you to do it? Now that takes action. You can't just have the desire and it happen, because that desire has to be turned into intention in order to actually happen. So we're going to use the transurfing model to turn desire into intention. Some people use magic. You can use a magical spell or ritual if you would like. You can rub one out to a sigil, or you can make an altar. There's a million billion different things that you can do. But the transurfing sort of ideology is really focused on the experience and the process the whole time, as it as you just kind of go through and highlight the positive outcomes, keep what you want in mind. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Figure out what you want and then create a slide, connect to it, and
then act.
take steps to the mailbox is what he says, right? Like take a step
Yeah.
to the mail, whatever that is. Buy the web domain, do the.
And you don't have to go the whole time. I'm going to the mailbox. I'm going to the mailbox. Like,
You don't have to make a production out of it
you
either.
have the
You're
intention.
going to the
and yeah,
mailbox. It's not a big deal,
you're going to the
dude.
mailbox.
Act like
Yeah.
you've been here before. You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay.
It's
Did
funny.
you just freeze? Oh, good. I couldn't tell. All right.
Probably. So, yeah. Okay, a couple more of these. What do you do about how to increase your worth? Oh, this is so simple. End the battle for self-worth,
fighting.
which that's what he said. The labyrinth walls will crumble. So you don't have to sit there and validate yourself. You don't have to, and don't ever do it to anyone else. Do not sit there and prove your worth to anyone or try to convince somebody of your worth.
Yeah, you never have
Just
to
know it.
defend yourself ever. You know, you can just be you and allow yourself.
How to get rid of feelings of guilt? Stop justifying yourself.
Oh, forgive yourself. Let it go. Yeah, we're all going to make mistakes. Like I said, that was one of the things in this chapter too that was a great reminder. Like, allow yourself to disrupt the balance from time to time. It's not a huge deal. If you lose a battle with a pendulum, okay, just win the next one. It's all good.
And just the battle with the pendulum is always to disrupt its flow, right? So it's not to fight against it. It's to do something totally out of the ordinary.
You can play its game.
Yeah.
And just do something different.
Completely ignore it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Okay, I feel like this is too much dead space here.
No, well, I like it when it gets uncomfortable. It's fun.
Oh, do you?
Oh, yeah, of course.
I feel like I'm not holding up my end here when it does.
Oh, no. I just, I didn't know if you were going to go with the next one, which is how to deal with resentment.
Somebody in the chat said that they forget the name of the practice, but there's a Hawaiian tradition which has 4 different phrases said to yourself or loved ones. It's called Ho'opono. It's actually one of my for trauma healing. Really, you can heal almost any trauma by those 4 phrases. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And you just repeat them over and over.
Right. I tried to spell that right, but I probably didn't. But yes.
So yeah, that's a good way for self-forgiveness as well. And that's what one thing he talks about too is resentment. Is like sometimes, like how do you deal with resentment? You end the battle and go with the flow. He said, but sometimes if you just feel resentment, you don't have to fight it. You're allowed to be resentful and just move on, you know?
Sometimes things just have to run their course. You know, it's like you might have an obsession about something or go into a rabbit hole unexpectedly. And it's like, wow, why can't I stop myself from looking into this or having a crush on this person or thinking about going to this country all of a sudden? I just can't stop. And it's like, well, don't stop yourself. Just keep going down that road. I mean, sometimes even we have what might be perceived as negative feelings of inadequacy or frustration in order to make ourselves go down that road and get better. You know, it's like, I don't sit here and watch my comedy and I'm like, oh, I'm such a genius. Wow. He's so funny. It's like, what can I do better? And how can I improve? That was terrible. Wow. Really bombed that joke. Maybe I should just never tell that one again. You know what I mean? It's not a comfortable process and that's okay. But yeah, do those things and go down the road, find those feelings and allow them to play out, and don't beat yourself up for the way you feel. It's like sometimes you were taken advantage of, and it's okay to be upset about that. Obviously, we don't want to live in the past or in a place of resentment, but sometimes those feelings and all that excess potential just has to burn off somehow. It's okay.
Yeah, over time, like I'm not an advocate for holding in emotion, but sometimes it's just the only thing to do. And like, but what he means by go with the flow. So let's say you resent your boss, they're an asshole. They're always an asshole. They ask you to do asshole things all the time. Um, I can be resentful as fuck and give myself a really bad day, or I can just go with the flow and like not let him get me down. Like, okay, I'm gonna play a little game today. It's choice. Your attitude is a choice. So that would be the way to just go with the flow. But sometimes you resent people in your life and situations in your life, and you feel like you just can't get past it. And you will just choose that you will eventually. You just don't have to do it right now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
That's
okay.
perfectly said. Perfectly said. Yeah, I mean, just accept it. If there's something that you can't change, accept it. Locus of control. What can you control and what can you not control? And the things that you cannot control, even though your mind wants to, just learn to let go. And the more that we repeat this process, the easier it is for the mind to just understand it like it's on a bike. No training wheels. It's like, I don't know how this thing stabilizes itself. I don't know why it's balanced, but we can ride it. So let's go. It doesn't need to.
No stabilizers.
It doesn't need to be in the cockpit. It just needs to sit in the aisle or by the window in the plane. Sit there, watch a movie, and then it'll be in its destination. I love
yeah.
that. Yeah, man.
Speaking of which, I did a float tank on
You
Sunday.
did?
I did the float there. Yeah, flotation therapy. It was really cool.
Fuck yeah. I love that.
You literally like float on the surface of the water and you like have hallucinations the whole time. Kind of like the liminal space before you dream.
It's very
So
liminally. Yeah, I love doing that. In fact, I'm probably going to make an appointment to go back up there really soon. I used to go a lot with my friend Steve back a little while. There's one about 40 minutes from here. And I love it. I missed it. It is awesome. I'm glad you did it, Abby. That's great. Very cool.
yeah, well, Cheney kept talking to me about it, and then I just happened to be at that place like after the bodybuilding show with my son. He wanted to go to a tea bar. I was like, okay. So thing and they happened to have flotation therapy. I was like, sign me up, doing it. And I will do it again.
Yeah. I strongly recommend. It's good. I need to start doing breath work again. I'm going to start doing that. It's like certain things I do again, and I'm like, why did I ever stop doing this? This is fucking awesome. Like even reading this book,
I know.
I really need to read this chapter again because it was so good. There's really so much that we could kind of uncover. There's like a lot of nuancy stuff. But there's just not enough time. This chapter itself is 2 hours long, and I think we do a pretty good job of taking, a decent amount of the information, synthesizing it here. But there's a lot of just cool nuanced stuff in here, and there always is. Every single time I read this book or any of these chapters, like at random sometimes, and some of them I read over and over again. And we're getting to one of those pretty soon as well. But yeah, y'all hit us up, hop in that Telegram chat, get in that Facebook groupies. I'm going to be doing readings again. I'm home. It's nice to be home. Big fan of my house and where I live. It's great. Abby, anything coming up with you? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm gonna plug myself here. I am offering lifestyle fitness coaching and with nutrition, and I'm also offering life coaching. So in addition to Bootsy here, I'm doing the same thing. So if you'd like more information, hit me up.
All right.
And be sure to tune in to Secret Society of Good Guys on Fridays and Sundays.
At midnight, I'll be lurking in the chat, judging all your jokes for this during the live stream, trying to find writers. No.
Hey, I told a joke that I heard in like 7th grade, and I did a good job. I thought I was gonna like kill it. I thought not kill it in a good way. I thought I was gonna ruin it, and I pulled it off. I remembered the punchline.
You nailed it. What was the joke? Tell us.
I nailed it. Well, it's bad. It's distasteful, so I don't know if it's good enough for Blue Collar Mystics or not.
Well, it's in like it's distasteful. How is it like misogynistic, distasteful, or is it like, Republican or right,
Oh
left?
no,
Is it political or is it like
raunchy? It's raunchy.
it's kind of raunchy? Well, we do say the F-bomb on here, so
Yeah, but fuck doesn't really mean anything. It's just kind of
well,
it's
it
a
means a lot
sentence
of things.
enhancer. It does, exactly.
Okay.
It's what
No, that's fine.
smart people say.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, fair enough. I'll have to write a joke for next week. I'll write a joke. And yeah, it'll be my first joke that I've written. I will. They want to hear the joke. They want to hear the joke in the chat. They're begging for it. Send it, they say. Send it. Do you know any joke you could just make
In the
up?
chat?
Yeah.
Oh, I know a short one. What do you call a cotton picker?
What?
Actually, I probably should change what I said. A girl who lost her string.
Oh. Okay.
It should probably be, who do you call a cotton picker?
I like it. That's a good joke. It's fun.
It's kind of
I hope
raunchy
that
too.
was satisfactory for you guys in the chat. That was pretty fun. I'd never heard that one before, so I enjoyed it. And yeah. And so we'll end
It's
there.
my favorite one to tell in public because you make everyone cringe and they're like, did she really just say that? Yeah.
I mean, I think the raunchy, dark, dirty jokes are super fun. They're my favorite. But, that doesn't mean it doesn't mean this is the place for it. Let's see.
Right.
But yeah, Patreon, there's some stuff.
Abby's joke hour.
Yeah, we're gonna do an hour.
She attempts to be a comedian.
It's gonna be fine. You're gonna crush. You're gonna do just fine. Well, cool. Yeah. So we did coordination this time. The next chapter is Forward to the Past, which is a really cool chapter. Like these later chapters, even if you didn't read the book, you could still take a lot from this, I think. But these later chapters are some of the ones that I don't think really get very much attention. It's just such a thick book, and all the theories really are the first 10 chapters. And then so the last few chapters here are really a little bit more practical, how to put this stuff into action. So I think it's just going to
We're
get
tired of theory. We want to do the cool stuff, the woo shit.
Yeah. We want to like skip timelines and like, make
clocks work again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and make things levitate or whatever. And by these metrics, or at least it's explainable how to do all of that kind of stuff. And we will talk about that. We will talk about some crazy shit coming up in these next chapters. That's not only possible, but people are doing it. People are doing the stuff the Baranikov Institute and other places are logging some of this stuff, which is wild. But anyway, it's not really about hocus pocus, witchery, voodoo magic. It's about just accomplishing our goals.
It's about the fact that, going back to chapter 1, that science only explains phenomena in one little sector of the alternative space.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't explain how everything works, so that's just what's observable in one area. So, yeah. I don't know what my point was.
No, that's right.
That anything's possible. That's really it. Is that anything literally is possible.
Everything exists already, and anything is possible within that framework. So that's where we're at. So let's do some cool shit, because we're all friends here, and we'll keep talking about this next week. Hit me up. I'm doing coaching too. I have some spots. I'm just going to start doing single sessions too. I was doing packages for a while, and then I've put together so many courses. I got to upload the last one, and I've got that stuff up. So, you know, if you're trying to work toward your goal, I really feel like that's where I do the best. Like I can really help chart a path to get from A to B. And actually, we're going to go from B to A and back to B, if you will, because that's just how I like to do it. But yeah, I've got, well, yeah, a lot of cool and interesting and unique tools as one of the weirdos in film production for many years. Learned a lot of
he does. I did his
obscure
life coach,
skills. Yeah, that's right.
Get Coach program.
One of my
I'm a
flagship
graduate.
clients. There we go. Also, that's right. Yeah, like but yeah, we all are doing amazing things. I'm super happy to be able to break this stuff down and to be doing the show. I'm so happy to have Abby on it. Thank you all for being here. Hit us up in the thing. I'll be doing readings again and Telegram and Facebook. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'm not going on tour again for a little while.
Got a little break.
Had a great time. Had the most amazing time. It was such an incredible trip. Sets were good, and the company was amazing. I just met a lot of awesome people. The Grimerica show guys were so cool. I got to meet Dave Matheson as well, and his presentations just mind blowing at the Eclipse at the Canyon event in Utopia, Texas. Not to mention the bands. I put a link in the Telegram chat to the band $50 Dynasty. They're awesome. You got to check them out. I'm going to put another link to one of the other bands, Henry Invisible, who's like a multi-instrumentalist. He played all the instruments on loop on stage. And these guys were incredible. Like they were next level. It was I was blown away by the talent there and the comics were all hilarious too. So, yeah.
Sounds like quite the experience. Your pictures were phenomenal.
Super cool. Yeah, the pictures turned out great. We were all worried, kind of. You know, it was one of those days out there where it was cloudy. And we're like, oh shit, are we even going to see it? And we all like came together. Everybody got in a circle, you know, and like did their thing. And then the sky cleared just as the eclipse happened. So it's like right as the eclipse happened, the sky cleared, and you could just, we saw the full thing in totality. Pretty wild.
Were you seeing a lot of cloud seeding though around it?
I don't know if there were a lot of cloud seeding, but there were a lot of clouds. It was just extra cloudy that day, and it was also stormy.
Because we had intentional cloud seeding here. I know they did in Florida too, so I'm like, weird.
This is off topic. But I just noticed it in the chat, and I just want to say I didn't know about this. A dude talking about how the key to his happiness is ensuring he eats pickles every day. I've been eating pickles every day, and I'm pretty happy. So I'm just going to throw that out there. I do agree, and I'm a big fan of many different styles of pickle. In fact, not just the dill, but also I like the hot and spicy dill, and even the sweet and hot pickles as well. Or even bread and butter. I'll even eat bread and butter. I think pickles might be the key to happiness. That and wearing more hats.
I don't know about that. I think it's a choice.
Okay,
happiness is not outside you, and it's not a future event. Okay? It's just deciding.
You just got to choose to eat pickles.
I'm happy, damn it.
That's what you got to do. I'm going to eat these pickles. All right. Well, cool. Well, again, thanks everybody for being here. Come check us out next week. We're going to tackle the next chapter, and I've got some stuff to upload and things, and I've got some videos and stuff. Thank you so much. Oh, Cheney, that sounds delightful. Yeah. Okay. We'll see you guys.
Salty.
We'll see you guys next time. Don't put the hot and spicy ones up there. Okay, much love.
Red ring